welcome to, of course, Pixel Classroom Podcast, PD, in the summer here for 2023. I'm actually going to show you a most recent one here, with the new one with Pac-Man, the board game, and how you can use it through K through 6 in the classroom. So, Pac-Man, the board game, is actually based off the original 80s one, which came out about around 82, 83. It was very similar to a kind of a Hungry Hippos. We had several Pac-Men around the board, and of course, every player's turn would, of course, go ahead and spin it, and then, of course, they would eat as many marbles as they could, and there would be a set of cards they would actually have to pull where ghost monsters and would tag the player out, and whatever marbles who had the most would win the game, like in Hungry Hippos. 2019 saw the release of Pac-Man the board game, which was an updated version of this game. So let's go ahead and unpack it, show you how to play, and then how you can use it in the classroom. So I'm putting the game here. Besides the class, it does have 3 yellow dice here, and I'll explain how these work later. But otherwise, the game comes with the main, of course, ghost spawn box, and it's separated into 4 different pegboard pieces. Each one of these pieces, of course, has a little bit of a part on it. Pretty much the easiest way to do is you want to turn this upside down and push out all the pieces so they're ready to go when the game is set. Once you've gotten the pieces already together, it's just a matter of assembling. I've learned that going up to down is actually the best way to assemble these. You'll notice the start key is right there. If you notice, as I also said here, is all the pieces will match up correctly. So that way, if there's any pieces that are mixed up or anything, they'll usually go together pretty simply and pretty easy. Just remember, sometimes the pieces might have to be laid on top of each other to get them to fit just perfectly. And of course, the ghosts go in the middle. The game can be played as 2 or 5 players, with one player always being Pac-Man, and the player either being all the ghost monsters, or one person can pick each ghost monster. When the game starts, the dice are rolled. Of course, depending on where your pieces are, of course, in this case, this is 11, Pac-Man is allowed to move anywhere in the maze in 11 spots. And as you can see with the 2 batteries, he will make the noises as they go. On each turn, after Pac-Man has, of course, pushed, a card is then drawn at the very top of the deck. The card represents which ghost monsters move at how many spaces in any direction. If it is an individual players, of course, each player must move it. If it, of course, is just a 2-player game where one person is Pac-Man and one person is the ghost monsters, they move according to the set. So in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and finally 1, 2, 3. If on the turn, Pac-Man ends up getting a power pellet, the power pellet is immediately removed from the game. This, of course, causes the bonus stage. So what happens is each one of the dice has to be rolled at least 1 time. When the dice is rolled, Pac-Man, of course, can go ahead, still cutting out the bonuses, but must move on those purses. On this first turn, it was only a 3, so they got right here. On the next turn, a 4 is done. Of course, Pac-Man now on this roll can, of course, get 1, 2, 3, 4. Once that's done, the tokens, of course, replace the ghost monster. So in this case, Clyde is taken out. Pinky is taken out. And of course, Sue is taken out and replaced by their person. Of course, there's only one more turn, of course, to roll the last dice to make sure if Pac-Man can at least reach over to get Inky, but of course, in this case, that's it. Once that turn is finished, the bonus round is over. If Pac-Man has gotten any of the ghost monsters in that taste, of course, you collect the amount of tokens that are represented for the player about how many ghost monsters he took out. In this case, it's 3. The next card, of course, is drawn, and now, of course, works on here. As you can see, Inky, of course, is allowed to go right after Pac-Man on a turn of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. This player now gets, of course, a Pac-Man token, of course, the count that they have taken out, and they will complete their turn. Once all that's taken care of, for the ghost monsters to respawn to their regular plastic versions, the eyes need to move, of course, according to that area. So in this case, Pinky needs to go 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He is now, of course, replaced by his regular one. And of course, the pieces would move too. In this case, all 3 of the ghost monsters could be replenished on their turn. and so ends the game. Depending on which version of Pac-Man you're playing, if you're playing only 2 players, each time Pac-Man is out, there's only 2 lives remaining. The game continues. Pac-Man, of course, will redo on the start key, and of course, the dice will be rolled once again in a 3-dice manner to see how many spaces he can move. In this case, it would be, of course, 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The game continues until the other two Pac-Man have been beaten by the other player or by the individual players. If on any turn the fruit card is taken care of, the cherry, the strawberry, and the orange, that token, of course, is placed on the start key, and of course it will remain there as Pac-Man, the player playing Pac-Man, must roll to try to get it for bonus points. It goes in each bonus, so every time that there is the next fruit card done, it goes next. So first will be, of course, cherry, then strawberry, and finally orange. Once that card has been chosen, of course, it is set to the bottom of the discard pile, and of course another card is picked up for, of course, the game to continue on the play. The game continues playing until either all the power pellets and dots have been collected by the player as Pac-Man, or of course the ghost monsters have defeated Pac-Man in 3 turns. Each item is developed a little bit different. For every blue ghost monster token collected, 200 points is to the player. Oranges are 500 points, strawberry is 200 points, and of course the cherry is the classic 100 points. Now, if any section at one point has been completely finished by Pac-Man, which corner has been taken is played onto the player. Of course, if the opposing side has gotten the Pac-Man tokens, of course, they, of course, are scored by how many Pac-Mans they go, which, of course, is by at least 200 points for each place that they have right there. If all 4 corners have been picked up, the winning player, of course, wins 32,000 points. There are no bonus points for individual Pac-Mans or, of course, hitting the power pellets once they have been taken care of and flipped over to the used item. So you're probably asking me, Ryan, this does look like a lot of fun. I think I could enjoy this at home. But how does this work in the classroom? Well, there's quite a couple ways it can work. For K through 3, it actually can work for basic counting as well as directions. Of course, every ghost monster is, of course, done by number. Of course, in this case, 5, 6, 8, and 5. It helps to teach students to, of course, do their counting or skip counting. One example here with Inky, of course, being space 5, students can, of course, count 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you're practicing on skip counting, like right here with Sue, who is a count of 6, you can have you learn how skip counting works, such as 3, 6. It also looks really good for classic addition and multiplication, how many students, of course, can get their points together by each token. It also works for basic coding. If you actually use directional piece here, it actually helps you work on that for basic coding from K through 7. Because, of course, as Pac-Man moves for each of his spaces, is almost like directional codes of a code. You actually can adapt the game to be it to the point to where Pac-Man, of course, will devour these many power pellets based on how many dice are rolled and how the ghost monsters will move towards him in a random manner, so of course the player knows it. It teaches a lot of bit of basic coding and how this works. It also works really good for pixel art games. Believe it or not, as you know, I do perler beads. You can actually recreate these games. Instead of spending about $16 to $20 to get this, you can make your own Pac-Man board using simple cardboard, crayons, and of course perler beads with the corresponding characters at a much cheaper, effective manner to play this game. So it leaves a lot of creativity in the classroom of what you can use this for the game in both coding and mathematics. The Pac-Man board game is available at your favorite online or in-person shopping. You can, of course, get everything else from Dickdowns. They usually range from $14 to $20 depending on all that. Mine, of course, was a gift from my son to learn to play this game. And we have tons of fun playing this, not only for learning, but also teaching him some of his math skills as well as directionals for coding. As he has now entered the middle school age, this Pac-Man game works great for teaching students basic coding as well as the use of develop of characters and rules. And that's going to do it for today's episode of course, the Pixel Classroom Summer Edition here. If you would like to know more about this, definitely check the show notes or check my links to my past videos for more. And any other question, guys, please leave a comment or, of course, questions there on my forum, and I'll be more than happy to ask them. This is Ryan Reed, and I will see you later on the Pixel Classroom Podcast.